Today we're going to discuss about the Yunark on a wooden horse who's choking on a chicken's neck in Beijing. And to discuss all this with me is General Hasnain. Sir, good evening and welcome to Ghana Shot once again. At the outset,
Good evening.
I must tell you that you wrote a fantastic article with the same thing, and that's why I thought I must tell everyone that the moment I saw this, I said, "Look, I must ask General Hasnain to speak to us." So before I give a basic thing, any initial thoughts, sir?
Well, in the midst of all the tariff wars and so much going around the world, the restructuring, a new world order which doesn't seem to be coming about anywhere, our neighborhood always creates some kind of a turbulence from time to time. And I think our gaze and focus must always remain on the neighborhood, despite the fact that we've got so much to do with the outside world at the moment. So I thought, when everyone's focus is outside, let me focus inwards a little bit.
Oh, thanks a lot, sir. I thought that was actually your article was very good, I must say. And I must tell everyone, what General Hasnain has always been saying. India took Bangladesh out of Pakistan in 1971, but Pakistan has never left Bangladesh. Some element of Pakistan has always stayed back, and they're creating whatever is happening there. And as of today, we have a whole lot of things on our plate. We have what Professor Yunus said in China. We have this issue of the new base at 𝗪𝗏𝗏, which they're trying to put up. Then the issue of the chicken neck and Teesta Barrage and exports, imports, and the transshipment embargo which India has imposed on Bangladesh. All this and more. But before I yield the floor to General Hasnain, I'd like to replay what exactly Professor Yunus said in Beijing, because that will set the stage for what we're going to discuss hereafter. Here it goes.
7 states of India, eastern part of India, called Seven Sisters. They are landlocked country, landlocked region of India. They have no way to reach out to the ocean. We are the only guardian of the ocean for all this region. So this opens up a huge possibility. So this could be an extension of the Chinese economy, build things, produce things, market things, bring things to Nepal, China, bring it out to the whole rest of the world.
Yeah, this is what he said. So, your take on what he said, and let's start the ball rolling.
Right. Thank you, first of all, for inviting me. And also thank you for appreciating what I wrote, which was just 1,050 words to put this into perspective, exactly what Mohd Yunus has just spoken. But before that, it's important for us to just realize one or two things. Ever since 5th of August 2024, the situation, as we know, has been festering in Bangladesh, the manner in which it has gone. But it's happened in spurts. And it's important to just recall the initial portion was just the change of government. Thereafter was the targeting of minorities for some time. Thereafter was, alongside with the minorities was also all the turbulence against the old order, against the Awami League, against all the symbols of the Awami League power in Dhaka and other places. Thereafter came suddenly a surge of visits by the ISI, or visits by Bangladesh army personnel to Pakistan. The ISI making visits to different parts of Bangladesh, particularly closer to the Indian borders. Now a delegation of the foreign ministry for the first time in a couple of years going to Bangladesh. And in the middle of all this came this visit by Mohd Yunus to Beijing, and there these words spoken. I was looking at that clip just now and assessing the body language with which he spoke. It was obviously a very well-rehearsed kind of a talk which he spoke this out. It was not spontaneous. something which came out as if he knows about it, as if something he has been talking about. It was a rehearsed thing, deliberate and put out primarily from the angle of irritating India, projecting to India that, despite whatever you may say, Bangladesh is on its own. We've got other options. We've got many other options to look at. In the face against India, it was that kind of an attitude. Let me read this statement all over once again to you, so you can get it in the right perspective. He said India's northeast is completely landlocked and its access to the ocean is completely controlled by Bangladesh. During one such high-level meeting in China, he urged Beijing to establish an economic foothold in Bangladesh. This is what he was referring to. An economic foothold in Bangladesh by leveraging its strategic position, Bangladesh's strategic position, as the only guardian of the ocean for the landlocked northeastern region of India. The provocation through this statement perhaps surpasses the provocation which happened by the overthrow of Sheikh Hasina. I would classify this as a greater act of provocation. That was something which has happened and gone by at the moment. But this is a very, very deliberate one aimed primarily at India. To many, this may be construed as a direct slur towards India's sovereignty and its national security. And interpretations can be many, but one thing is obvious. That is the fact that Yunus has chosen to use words and occasion which obfuscate and yet convey meanings. I hope you're getting the context of what I'm trying to say.
Yes, sir.
Conflict, to obfuscate and yet convey meanings. Gray zone, confuse everyone, gray zone, yet send a message somewhere. There is a vulnerability in India. The Northeast is vulnerable. It's got a sliver of territory which links it to India. Bangladesh is the one which controls the sea. First of all, I don't know what strategic sense Muhammad Yunus has got. Where is the control of the sea by Bangladesh with one end of Chittagong at one side completely and the whole delta in front and down below, down south? I mean, in what ways does he think that Bangladesh can be a sea power in control of the Bay of Bengal? And is then inviting China to come and join it as a part of his overall search that he's trying to bring about. What does he perceive in terms of mentioning this aspect of India's northeast, which is, landlocked complete? What does he mean?
One more point, sir. The point is in terms of timing. When you said it's in the face, he did it 1 week just before he was to meet our Prime Minister in BIMSTEC. So that he made a canvas for himself on which he said, this is what I've told China. Now let me talk to you.
Exactly. In fact, this is the point which I was coming to just now. This is a very important aspect that in the context he knew, and they've been asking for this meeting. It's not at anything else. They've been asking for this one-on-one meeting, and a lot was being projected from this one-on-one meeting with our Prime Minister. But obviously, it was timed in such a way, the context was in such a way as to convey, as I said, in your face, that you can go to hell as far as we are concerned. Now, I think the Indian response has been very timely. It's come about very, very quickly, and it's come about in a very subtle way, very good subtle way. We may err. We have erred, there's no doubt. We may be going against certain international laws, but so be it. It doesn't matter. I think this whole thing of helping out Bangladesh in 2020 based upon all kinds of demands which came on us that time to assist them, we helped them with this transit trade agreement, allowing them to use our land routes, our land ports, etc., for bringing out their goods. In fact, their apparel industry, which is worth $60 billion almost, they say, huge industry, and it's on that Pakistan and Bangladesh depends so hugely. the demand was from there. The ability to send it to Myanmar, to send it to Nepal, to send it to Bhutan. Otherwise, there was no way that you send it. You send it by air, or you have all kinds of circuitous routes by which you send it. Today, that was facilitated by India. There are many other such things which Bangladesh must realize, that there are certain issues with India which only India can provide. For example, medical visas. For its population, for its people, I mean, the state of medical facilities inside Bangladesh are pathetic compared to what they are in India. And India is beyond comparison. We have got facilities to which people from the Middle East come, people from Southeast Asia are coming, right? And very, very competitive rates. And there's a lineup of people for medical visas in the Indian High Commission in Bangladesh. Imagine tomorrow if India suspends these visas. I wonder, I mean, of course, a lot of people, I've been mentioning this on social media since morning today. A lot of people have come back to me and said, sir, this is a very dangerous thing into which you are looking and recommending. But obviously, this is an option which could always be there. And it will hurt the people tremendously. It's already, this decision to resign the Trade and Transit Treaty itself is going to hurt people. It's going to hurt the whole nation. It's going to hurt the economy and the government, everything. But obviously, they don't mind cutting their nose to spite their face.
Spite their face. I mean, let me explain, sir. This is not only, this is primarily for their air traffic. You see, what's happening is their garments and everything, they don't get lifted from Bangladesh by air. They come to Delhi and get lifted to go abroad. Yeah. So if this is gone, and especially in this time when they've been slapped with a 44% tariff on their garments in USA, it's a huge hit, and it's a tap on their beak. कि भाई जितना है उतना ही है. So I think it's time that it's not dangerous. I think at times we have to tell where they stand. And I think what you've done, sir, is absolutely okay. They need to know where they stand and what they should speak and how.
Absolutely.
Sorry for the interruption, but I just thought I'd clarify that issue.
No, but this is you are absolutely 100% right on it. This addition is 44%, or they've been 34%, I think, has been imposed on them.
44, sir. 44.
Okay, 44. 44 is going to make a huge difference, my God. Their industry is going to collapse with this completely. And this is something on which Bangladesh has worked assiduously over the years, something which they built up on their own completely. And they are just cutting their own feet on this whole issue. Now, the other aspects. My deeper look at this statement led me to believe that what Yunus was trying, or perhaps Yunus in connivance with some of his strategic advisors, etc., maybe looking at trying to advise China, is that this is it's not necessary to talk about military aspects and military threats, etc. These are threats in being. Create threats in being. Speak about it from time to time. Many times I say it's very important to keep speaking about Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. A threat in being must be created all the time. You should never know when we have to go in and when we have to do something there. So it's always good to keep ourselves psychologically ready and keep the people of POK also psychologically ready. Similar thing here. I think he's picked a cue from here. And he seems to think that projecting to China that there is a vulnerability in the northeast, that this sliver of territory here, this corridor here, and that Bangladesh-China strategic equation can ensure that China's overall stance, strategic domination of this area is enhanced to a far greater extent through its strategic partnership with Bangladesh. For those who may not be fully aware, the Siliguri corridor, which is a narrow sliver of territory, about 25 kilometers broad, it's got pipelines. It's not just got roads, it's got pipelines, It has got railway routes. It's got roads. It has got internet connectivity. I mean, all kinds of things in terms of infrastructure on which the Northeast completely depends, right? And so there's a lot of talk going on at the moment in the environment. I don't want to touch upon those aspects of, military operations to broaden the corridor and this and that. I'm not going to touch anything of that at the moment unless there is something which comes up in the questions. But these are the issues which are unnecessarily being instigated at this time. Yeah, go ahead.
Not only that, sir. Like here I've shown this is the Siliguri corridor, right? This is the Siliguri corridor.
Yeah, corridor, yeah.
We've spoken of, and he's also spoken of. There are two more issues which are, there on the table. One is this Teesta Barrage.
Teesta Barrage,
You see,
yes.
if you remember, this Teesta Barrage has been on the table for a long time, taming of Teesta and all that. When Sheikh Hasina went to China last year, beginning of last year, this was off the table. She very clearly said Teesta Barrage whatever work will be given to Indian firm. Now this fellow has said he's asked them to come. And the Chinese ambassador in Bangladesh is jumping all over the country to say, please, we'll start work there. And for us, it's a red line that Chinese are there. I'll just show this a little later. And then there's this airbase at Lal. I'll explain this both, so that from there we'll discuss.
Let me just take my take on Lal Munir Ghat. It's a very interesting aspect that is Bangladesh offering Lal Munir Ghat for facilitating the Chinese PLA Air Force, or is it just that the Chinese come and assist the Bangladeshis in constructing the airfields? Remember what Pakistan's relationship is with, or rather China's relationship with Pakistan. Despite the Belt and Road Initiative, despite the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, none of the airfields in Gilgit-Baltistan are occupied by the Chinese. There are no assets there. They could always fly in there, but there are no assets there as such. Here, in this case, in the case of Lal Munir Ghat, they will have to cross over 3 countries before coming to try and occupy any assets have to be brought into Lal Munir Ghat. But the other thing is, Lal Munir Ghat touches the northernmost point of Bangladesh. In fact, from Cherrapunji, if you look down, is hardly a distance towards Lal Munir Ghat.
So this is the one. This is the place which I'm showing, Lal Munir Ghat.
Yeah.
Right. And incidentally, this Lal Munir Ghat is just about 15 kilometers away from the IB.
IB, correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Anywhere about 15, 13, 14. It's within artillery range. It's a Turkey shoot if anyone is there. And this is the Teesta Barrage, which is there and where they want to tame. And this is just about 3 kilometers from the IB. Now just think, if so many of these chaps are going to hang around, the international border with India, and that too Chinese, where are we looking at? And if you look at it closer, this is the Lal Munir Ghat, this is the runway. This is their, air base. And basically what they have today there is some kind of an aerospace university. In fact, last year, sir, they had come also, they had made inquiries. One of our professors had gone to Bangladesh to discuss with them as to how to run this university. Right? So now it appears that they want to make it into air base. But the fact is that will China be comfortable to be 3 or 10 kilometers away from this place?
If you remember, this is exactly the rationale. If you remember, this year everything seems to be a cue out of Pakistan's book. This is exactly what happened in POK and Gilgit-Baltistan. When the roads started getting constructed, when the dams started getting constructed, you found 11,000 Chinese troops, the PLA, actually being placed to protect the corridor at that time, right? One of the reasons for it, which was we rationalized, I remember in Northern Command at that time, was the fact that the presence of Chinese, the Pakistanis always felt, was a deterrent for India to do anything in this area, right? Is Bangladesh looking at it from that angle? That they would do an airfield which is 15 kilometers away, with the Chinese living there, etc. If India ever looks at the possibility of expanding of the expansion of the Siliguri corridor, here is something which is a deterrence to it. That is the way one has to look at it also.
So not only that, the fact is that, that is one way of looking at it, but let's look at it from the Indian point of view. Can we see, after all, like you rightly said earlier, they want to revive this with the help of a Chinese contractor with a Pakistani subcontractor. That's also the subset. And the second thing is, this is also what you said, 𝗥𝗘𝗙𝗪 is coming later this month there.
Yeah.
On a state visit. Okay, now I'll go back and, we'll see this a little. Yeah, this is 𝗟𝗡𝗏 and this is, 𝗪𝗧. This is Doklam in the Chumbi Valley. Of course, this is Siliguri corridor is here. That's 22 kilometers. That is not almost untouchable. But are they giving a springboard for the Chinese here for a future option? That's something which we have to, that is the way I look at it. If that is so, that's a red line for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if it's a red line,
any military resources of the Chinese being contemplated to be placed here as close as that to the IB, obviously is a red line.
And it's a heavy red line. And if it's a heavy red line, I think it's time that the government of India conveyed it in as many terms to Bangladesh.
Absolutely. I agree.
Especially because they have what commitment the earlier government had given to us, they're going backtracking on it. And this is not an individual thing, it's a government-to-government deal.
You see, just remember one thing, the government of India has played this, and I mentioned this, I think, at the concluding remark of my article, that the government of India has played this very maturely so far, right? In the sense, they haven't gone over the top on anything, not a step, not a statement, nothing which has happened. They sent the foreign secretary at the appropriate time, who went there, listened to everything, spoke the right things out there. Even when the minorities got targeted, we may have had a lot of turbulence in the Indian media or in the social media circles, etc. But the government of India, its statements were very, very measured and has continued to maintain that all this while. I think it's very clear. We are not looking at. We are looking at provocation. There's no doubt about it. We are not looking at attempting to do provocation from our side. We are just countering the provocation which is coming from their side. But as you say, if the red lines are being crossed or threatened to be crossed, we will have to decide how to play this out. Because then there has to be not just symbolism, but there has to be some concrete action which will convey the meaning and convey our intent very, very clearly.
That I think has already been done by the transshipment, taken off, because that's going to hit them very hard, sir. That's one.
Hit them out, no doubt.
I just want to amplify what you said earlier. You see, I'll just show a slide. You see, sir, this is our exports to Bangladesh. This is what I compiled. You got it?
Yeah.
Now, the garments which they export, the input 1.2 billion goes from here. In fact, it's almost 1.7 billion goes from here. If you don't send cotton there, they don't make garments. Pure and simple. And for that, they need electricity from here. So these two itself is a major issue. Baki, I'm not going to talk of petroleum, refined petroleum, all that.
I think Mohammed Yunus doesn't realize the gravity of these things at all. His statement, for example, that there is so much water, there is water all over Bangladesh, and there's nothing. Energy is not a problem at all. My God, Bangladesh is energy deficient to the extent, such an extent, that he doesn't realize. I think it's very naive. His statements and all these things seem to be very, very naive.
Very naive. The second thing, sir, which I'd like to point out is, if you come down below, they get sugar, rice, everything. But a very interesting thing, this is onions, sir. They import onions from us. Okay. Now, the interesting thing which I want to put across is this. Whenever seasonally there is shortage of onions in the world, India is the one producer which gives onions to the world.
Yeah.
And when that shortage of onions happens all over the world, it is India which restricts or prohibits onion from exporting. But it always gives onions to Bangladesh, UAE, Bhutan, Bahrain, Mauritius, and Sri Lanka. Because these are our neighbors. Just think. I mean, and in Bangladesh, there are no onions being grown at that point of time. I mean, the only place where onions are grown in India also, or you can harvest onions in India, are in the Nasik belt. Nasik, Maharashtra, Pune, that belt. Right? That's the onion center. So just think, if only you stop giving them onions, because they know the place they can get it. And
at the end of it,
we make special concessions to give onions to them. As simple as that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it leads us to think that people who have been behind this coup d'etat, and they say that this was not just a spontaneous trigger.
No, it was
something. It was something which was, fermentation from within. A lot of fermentation had taken place, and lots of turbulence had happened, and they've been planned out very well. That when they talk about this, obviously, this leadership has not seriously looked at the implications of what it was going to do, or what would happen when it did what it finally did. Most leaders will always go into these aspects. Of course, we are not. Of course, I don't consider Bangladesh a banana republic. There are too many banana republics around the world. I don't consider Bangladesh a banana republic. In fact, they had their act, which was getting together very well as a nation, in the last couple of years. But all of a sudden, they seem to be absolutely in the harakiri mode at the moment.
I mean, it's also lack of experience. After all, Yunus was running a microfinance system. Gone out through his other connections, he got himself a Nobel Prize, and he did whatever he had to do. And we have to understand that he was convicted by the court and he was to be put in prison. Virtually, he was living in exile out there. He doesn't know much about running a government. And all his advisors are bureaucrats. They don't know politics.
Okay. And there's a hell of a lot of influence of the students, those few students who are ambitious themselves. And of course, behind them is the hand of the
Jamaat-e-Islam. And I'd like to, there is a lot of misconception, like you rightly said earlier, that they have a strange misconception about themselves. I mean, this is something which I found very interesting, I must share. This is from Daily Star. Within Bangladesh, you see, there's been mob violence, excessive mob violence in March. People are getting kidnapped. Children are getting raped. Young girls. There's some kind of moral policing on. And mob violence is on the increase. Now, this country says Bangladesh should intervene fast in Gaza genocide. You see the contrast of thinking. I अपना घर संभाल नहीं सकते हो, जाके वहां intervene करना चाहते हो. What is your ability to intervene beyond your port also, I don't know. So I think we are dealing with a different kind of a psyche, which is not a normal psyche of people who, act logically. I'd like your views on this and how to handle this, because it's okay to handle an irrational guy, but who's, I've also heard you say earlier, Pakistan shows irrationality but behaves rationally internally. These chaps are irrational. How do you deal with them?
You see, you're quite right. The questions which you have raised are absolutely legitimate. But Bangladesh, as I said, when you see, even in 1971, actually, let's go back into our whole strategy of conflict termination of 1971. It was very, very faulty, if you look at it. We won a war, no doubt, we won a war, but completely lost a peace, right? We gloated over the fact that we had 93,000 prisoners in our hands. We were treating them extremely well. Good, yes, we treated them very well. Not that the world remembers it in any way today. But thereafter, our handling of Bangladesh is somehow we never seem to have understood them, nor have they understood us. It's classically when you serve with the Bangladesh army, for example, in the United Nations, there is a very, very perceptible standoff which you always have with them. The Indian army, you stay away a little bit. You don't go completely together. The fact that we have been together, liberated a country together, defeated a third army, which was our common adversary at a time, all this should actually have a very natural kind of a bonhomie coming together, etc. All this is, to my mind, artificial, very, very artificial. Only in the times of Sheikh Hasina, only in the times of Sheikh Mujib, that we found that kind of a bonhomie was there. But that too only within the ranks of the Awami League and the family itself, portions of the army who were loyal to Sheikh Mujib and the Awami League. Rest of it has all been against us. Not that they have been for Pakistan, but they have been against us. I mean, I lived in a house in which we had a couple of Bangladeshis and a couple of Indians living together. They seem to live in a completely different world. That they were the greatest nation on the earth. That India was something which was in the previous century. That Bangladesh was making huge strides forward. I mean, this was the kind of belief that they had. That the comparison of India and Bangladesh was such that Bangladesh was way up and India was way down. Now, if you live with this kind of perception, it becomes very, very difficult to sort of, you will have friendly relations, you will do, India went out of its way to do lots and lots of things. 2020, this treaty itself, this agreement itself is something completely out of the way. Our own people have been, all those who handle apparel trade and things like that have all been complaining about this. The increase in prices of handling, the prices of movement of goods and things like that. They've been all complaining about it. India did it because for strategic reasons we needed Bangladesh. We need to have Bangladesh on our side, but it cannot be only on their terms. It can't just be on a one-sided thing on their terms, which is what is surprising. They seem to think that a nation of 1.4 billion people is irrelevant as far as they are concerned.
Don't you think it's time to say, okay, we'll take what, we have our terms, we lay down the terms, you follow the terms, fine. You don't follow the terms, also fine. We'll treat you accordingly.
Well, if push comes to shove, I suppose that is what will have to be dictated at some stage or the other. And far from Northeast being landlocked, I think Bangladesh is landlocked.
Hey, it's got what that's happened already, sir. वो तो बंद है, उसका तो वैसे भी आज बंद हो गया. He is now landlocked.
He's completely landlocked.
He can't even live.
All this talk of India being Northeast being landlocked, portions of India being landlocked, masters of the Bay of Bengal, my God, masters of the Bay of Bengal. All this, I mean, which world do you live in? You and I would never speak the way we are speaking today. If you have seen, if you go back to the recordings of the earlier recording, how careful we were in uttering a single word. We never want to provoke. They are friends. There are people with whom we have helped and assisted. We don't even want to claim that we have assisted them. They have done it on their own. We have said so many times on record here. But now when you try and bring about this approach and attitude of provocation, I think then this is a time to retaliate.
Yeah, I think it's a time to retaliate, sir. And I also feel that we need to work out a plan. It should be a planned kind of a step-by-step thing, which we should roll out, where the message is clear and ambiguous. And
absolutely,
and
it has to be strategic. It has to be strategic. Too many people in India look only at military options. No, I'm saying leave out military options. There are thousands of diplomatic, political, diplomatic, economic, social, things which you can, actions which can be carried out to make sure that the message goes clearly to Bangladesh.
Yeah, I think so, sir. I think we've had a very clear discussion. I think that the message across everyone in India is clear to Bangladesh people. We treated you as friends. so far from August 5th, even after August 5th, we continue to treat you as friends. But today you want to become not friendly to us, right? You want to become unfriendly to us. So be it. So if you want to be unfriendly to us, we will return that compliment to you. And that's my last take. If you have anything
No,
else
no,
to say,
I
sir?
think that is good enough. I've conveyed my thing very quite clearly, first of all, in the article today itself, subsequently through my utterances and your concluding remarks just now, and something will come out tomorrow again in writing a little more from my side. I think we have put together a package to convey this quite clearly.
Yeah, I think so. Red lines are approaching. Cross the red lines, or फिर देख लेना. Sir, thanks a lot. It was a great interaction with you.
Good fun,
And I
really.
thought,
I really enjoyed it.
and I thought the questions were also very good. And I do hope all of you who are watching from wherever you are, please understand we have given a message to Bangladesh. And I also hope that people in Bangladesh see this and reflect where they're going, where they want to go, right? And let me end this whole thing with a note. India would still like to have a friendly Bangladesh. We are proud of the fact that you liberated yourself and we just assisted you in liberating yourself. What you have gone through is not your second liberation. You are going into, we see from somewhere else where you are going. We would like to help you. It's up to you to take that help or not. Would you like to give your last message to them, sir? Or at least
I entirely agree with you. I think the message sent out by India this time is a strong, very appropriate message that you cannot take us for granted and keep on provoking us all along, right? There will be a time, and there's a lot that we have in our hands which controls the future of Bangladesh, the progress of Bangladesh. It's best as we continue to try and go back to our relationship, the old relationship which has existed in the past. Let bygones be bygones. If you have issues concerning all that, let bygones be bygones, because ultimately at the end of the day, just remember, India has always meant good for you. We only want to see Bangladesh stable and growing, nothing more than that. That will ensure full stability on our borders. The longest border that we enjoy with any country in South Asia is with you, 4,000 kilometers plus. It's with these words that I would strongly recommend that peace should be our message.
Right. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot to everyone who attended. Good evening and Jai Hind to all of you.
Jai Hind to all.